to look at the first lines of the play. And right at the outset, Act 1, Scene 1, we have a scene of considerable tumult. It's the venue is Elsinore, and it's a platform located before the castle in which there are sentinels who are guarding against, well, as you would always have, you have guards before the castle, and they are going to allude to something that is going to need the attention of the prince very shortly. So Act 1, Scene 1, Bernardo and Francisco. Who's there? Nay, answer me. Stand and unfold yourself. Long live the king. Bernardo? Hey? You come most carefully upon your hour. 'Tis now strook 12. Get thee to bed, Francisco. For this relief, much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart. Have you had a quiet guard? Not a mouse stirring. Well, good night. If you do meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste. Enter Horatio and Marcellus, right at that point. I think I hear them. Stand ho! Who is there? Friends to this ground and liegemen to the Dane, give you good night. Oh, farewell, honest soldier. Who hath relieved you? Bernardo has my place. Give you good night. Hola, Bernardo. Say, what, is Horatio there? A piece of him. Cold. Welcome, Horatio. Welcome, good Marcellus. What, has this thing appeared again tonight? I have seen nothing. Horatio says 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him, touching this dread sight, twice seen of us. Therefore I have entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night, that if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it. Tush, tush, 'twill not appear. Sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears, that are so fortified against our story, what we have 2 nights seen. Well, sit we down. A while, sit we down, and let us hear Bernardo speak of this. Last night of all, when yon same star, that's westward from the pole, has made its course to illume that part of heaven, where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating one, and then the ghost comes upon the scene right then. Peace. Break thee off. Look where it comes again, in the same figure like the king that's dead. Thou art a scholar. Speak to it, Horatio. Looks it not like the king? Mark it, Horatio. Most like. It harrows me with fear and wonder. It would be spoke to. Speak to it, Horatio. What art thou that usurps this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven, I charge thee, speak. It is offended. See, it stalks away. Stay, speak, speak. I charge thee, speak. Exit ghost. He charges him by heaven, and he's offended. He leaves. 'Tis gone and will not answer. Okay. How now, Horatio? You tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on't? Before my God, I might not this believe without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes. Is it not like the king, as thou art to thyself? Such was the very armor he had on when he, the ambitious Norway, combated. He frowned, so frowned he once when in an angry parley he smote the sledded Polacks on the ice. 'Tis strange. So in other words, Hamlet's father was a man of action. He was a man of war. He was battling abroad in Poland and also in Norway. Thus twice before, and because of that, the Polish and the Norwegians have grievances with the Danish. That's also context. The mention of the Poles will come up later as well. Thus twice before, and jump at this dead hour with martial stock hath he gone before by our watch. In what particular thought to work, I know not, but in the gross and scope of mine opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. Okay, so he sees it as it has a political implication. It bodes some strange eruption to our state. Good, now sit down and tell me, he that knows, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land. And why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war? Why such impressive shipwrights, whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night joint laborer with the day? Who is it that can inform me? In other words, why are we preparing for war? Night and day, without respite. That can I. At least the whisper goes on. So, our last king, remember this is a political context for the play. It's not too influential on the majority of it, but is necessary information to explain this sort of the outer circumference of action. At least the whisper goes on. Our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras, who, by a sealed compact well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized of, to the conqueror. Against the which a moiety competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher, as by the same compart and carriage of the article design, his fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras of unapproved metal, and hot and full, hath in the skirts of Norway here and there sharked up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath a stomach in it, which is no other, as it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover of us by strong hand and terms compulsatory those aforesaid lands so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this our watch, and the chief head of this post haste and rummage in the land. So why is all this happening? Because young Fortinbras is not happy with the legal outcome of the case, because legally Denmark has inherited Norway, but the son of Fortinbras is not happy with this state of affairs and is going to take it by force. A mote it is to trouble the mind's eye. Remember, a mote is a speck in Elizabethan, actually, in King James English, right? The log and the mote. A mote is to trouble the mind's eye. In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mighty Julius fell, the graves stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets, as stars with trains of life, of fire rather, and dews of blood, disasters in the sun, and the moist star upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse, and even the like precurse of feared events, as harbingers preceding still the fates and prologue to the omen coming on. Have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our climatures and countrymen. Ghost comes back in again. I'll cross it, though it blast me. Stay, illusion, if thou hast any sound or use of voice. Speak to me, if there be any good thing to be done, that may to thee do ease and grace to me. Speak to me, if thou art privy to thy country's fate, which happily foreknowing may avoid. Oh, speak. Or if thou hast uphoarded in thy life extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say your spirits oft walk in death, speak of it, stay and speak. And then the cock crows. Stop it, Marcellus. Shall I strike it with my partisan? Do, if it will not stand. 'Tis here, 'tis here, 'tis gone. We do it wrong, being so majestical, to offer the show of violence, for it is as the air invulnerable, and our vein blows malicious mockery. It was about to speak when the cock crew, and then it started like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. I have heard the cock, that is the trumpet to the morn, doth with his lofty and shrill sounding throat awake the god of day, and at his warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and unerring spirit hies to his confine, and of the truth herein this present object made probation. It faded on the crowing of the cock. Some say that ever against that season comes wherein our Saviour's birth is celebrated. The bird of dawning singeth all day long, and then they say no spirit dares stir abroad. The nights are wholesome, then no planets strike, no fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm. So hallowed and so gracious is that time. The light, the day. So have I heard, and do in part believe it. But look, the morn in russet mantle clad walks o'er the dew of yon high eastward hill. Break we our watch up, and by my advice let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit, dumb to us, will speak to him. Do you consent we shall acquaint him with it, as needful in our loves, fitting our duty? Let's do it, I pray, and I this morning know where we shall find him most convenient. So scene 2. So play opens with the intrigue. It talks about the context of war provoked by external powers, the imminent invasion threatened by young Fortinbras as a result of an ancient quarrel, which still plagues the country. We have Hamlet's father's ghost that comes and seems to speak to those affairs. That's how it all opens. Scene 2, we have figures I've already mentioned because of the introduction, but we have the now king, Claudius, king of Denmark, Gertrude the queen, the council, and amongst them Polonius and his son Laertes. We also have Hamlet, and among others. King. Though yet of Hamlet, our dear brother's death, the memory be green, and that it us befitted to bear our hearts in grief, and our whole kingdom to be contracted in one brow of woe. Yet so far hath discretion fought with nature, that we with wisest sorrow think on him together with remembrance of ourselves. Therefore are sometimes, when he says of ourselves, he's thinking of him, speaking of himself in the plural. The king, who is the man, represents the king who is the head of the state. And the head of the state has to make sure that the state carries on in an orderly fashion despite his private grief. So he says, with remembrance of ourselves, that is our kingly duties, therefore our sometime sister, now our queen, the imperious jointress to this warlike state, have we, as 'twere with a defeated joy, with an auspicious and a dropping eye, with mirth in funeral, and with dirge in marriage, in equal scale waiting delight and dole, taken to wife. Nor have we herein barred your better wisdoms, which have freely gone with this affair along, for all our thanks. Now follows that you know young Fortinbras, holding a weak supposal of our worth, or thinking by our late dear brother's death our state to be disjoint and out of frame, colleagued with a dream of his advantage, he hath not failed to pester us with message, importing the surrender of those lands lost by his father, with all bands of law, to our most valiant brother. So much for him. Now, for ourself and for this time of meeting, so much the busyness is. We have here writ to Norway, uncle of young Fortinbras, who, impotent in bedred, hardly hears of this his nephew's purpose to suppress his further gait herein, in that the levies, the lists, and full proportions are all made out of his subject. And we here dispatch you, good Cornelius, and you, Voltimand, for bearers of this greeting to old Norway, giving to you no further personal power to business with the king, more than the scope of these dilated articles allow. And he hands a paper over. Farewell, and let your haste commend your duty. In that, the two men say, and in all things will we show our duty. We doubt it nothing. Heartily, farewell. So, what's the king done? He's written the uncle of young Fortinbras and says, hey, keep the hot-headed youth in check. You know, you may not be aware, but your nephew here is making a lot of noise and a lot of trouble, and he's thinking of breaking the law. You check him. You're the wealthy older gentleman. Let's keep the young bucks in order here. And he expects that that's what will happen. So, king. And now, Laertes, what's the news with you? You told us of some suit, as in a plea or a legal action, of some suit. What is it, Laertes? You cannot speak of reason to the Dane and lose your voice. What wouldst thou beg, Laertes? That shall not be my offer, not thy asking. The head is not more native to the heart, the hand more instrumental to the mouth, than is the throne of Denmark to thy father. What wouldst thou have, Laertes? My dread lord, your leave and favor to return to France, from whence, though willingly I came to Denmark to show my duty in your coronation, yet now I must confess, that duty done, my thoughts and wishes bend again toward France, and bow them to your gracious leave and pardon. Have you your father's leave? What says Polonius? He hath, my son, wrung from me my slow leave by laborsome petition, and at last upon his will I sealed my heart consent. I do beseech you, give him leave to go. Take thy fair hour, Laertes, time be thine, and thy best graces spend it at thy will. But now, my cousin Hamlet and my son. Now, Laertes is going to come back as well. And again, we have three young bloods in the young men here. We have Hamlet, we have Laertes, and we have Fortinbras. And all three of them are young men of action, potentially. Young men are tend towards action. You know, their bodies are strong, their spirits are high, they're more volatile, they have less to lose. They have a sense of invulnerability at youth and so forth. So these three young men are important to bear in mind and hold together in contrast. So they're sort of foils for one another. But anyway, Laertes has been dismissed back to France. He is the brother of Ophelia and son of Polonius. And Ophelia is the girlfriend, as it were, of Hamlet. So there's the connections here. And he says, but how now, my cousin Hamlet and my son? Now, the opening speech of the king showed how confused the whole thing. There was a marriage and a funeral and a death and a coronation, and all these things happened together basically at the same time. So total confusion. And he calls him my son. And then Hamlet aside, so how this is done, I have no idea. You'd put a light on him and the others would be clothed in darkness, or he stands forward. As an aside, the others don't hear him, but he says, a little more than kin and less than kind. So we already know that he is unhappy with the current state of affairs. There's a blood tie, and yet we're a totally different kind of man, to the point like he doesn't like his uncle for whatever reason. How is it that the clouds still hang on you? Because everyone can see that Hamlet is walking around with a face like thunder ever since his father died. How is it the clouds still hang on you? Not so, my lord. I am too much in the sun. Now the sun, this is a play on words, because the sun is a symbol of the king. And the constellations around the sun, the courtiers and so forth, when he says that he's too much in the sun, it means that actually he's too near the current king. That's the problem. It's not, and I think I'm assuming that his uncle understands the pun. It's not that I'm too much in the clouds, I'm too much in the sun. And then his mother, good-hearted, but a little dim. Good, Hamlet, cast thy nighted color off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Denmark now refers to her husband, who represents Denmark, microcosm, macrocosm. Like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou knowest 'tis common. All that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. Aye, madam, it is common. If it be, why seems it so particular with thee? Seems, madam? Nay, it is. I know not, seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, nor windy suspiration of forced breath, no, nor the fruitful river in the eye, nor the dejected havior of the visage, together with all forms, moods, shapes of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passes show. These but the trappings and suits of woe. So those are the external signs of grief. You can wear black, you can cry, you can have those are external signs of mourning. I have a deep existential sorrow, we would say, the existential modern term. There's a deeper grief than the outward show can display. 'Tis sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet, to give these mourning duties to your father. But you must know your father lost a father. That father lost his, and the survivor bound in filial obligation for some term to do obsequious sorrow. But to persevere in obstinate condolement is a course of impious stubbornness. 'Tis unmanly grief. It shows a will most incorrect to heaven, a heart unfortified, or mind impatient, an understanding simple and unschooled. For what we know must be, and is as common as any the most vulgar thing to sense. Why should we in our peevish opposition take it to heart? Fie, 'tis a fault to heaven, a fault against the dead, a fault to nature, to reason most absurd, whose common theme is death of fathers, and who still hath cried from the first course till he that died today. This must be so. We pray you throw to earth this unprevailing woe, and think of us as of a father. For let the world take note, you are the most immediate to our throne, and with no less nobility of love than that which dearest father bears his son, do I impart toward you. For your intent in going back to school in Wittenberg, it is most retrograde to our desire. So Laertes has just gone back to France where he had been. Hamlet wants to go back to Wittenberg where he had been. The king doesn't want him to go back. It is most retrograde to our desire, and we beseech you, bend you to remain here in the cheer and comfort of our eye, our chiefest courtier cousin, and our son. Let not thy mother lose her prayers, Hamlet, I pray thee, stay with us, go not to Wittenberg. I shall in all my best obey you, madam. Doesn't respond to him. Why, 'tis a loving and a fair reply. Be as ourself in Denmark. Madam, come. This gentle and unforced accord of Hamlet sits smiling to my heart, in grace whereof no jocund health that Denmark drinks today, but the great cannon to the clouds shall tell, and the kings rouse the heaven shall bruit again, bespeaking earthly thunder. Come away. And then the flourish of the trumpets, because whenever the king comes or goes, the trumpets announce it. And so out he goes. And then we get the first of Hamlet's great soliloquies, for which the play is famous. And with that, the revelation of what he's really thinking. And this play, more than any other, is marked by soliloquies. And as I say, Hamlet is very much of a, his life is an internal life presented to us. His conscience is clear. This is the emphasis of the play, very much in keeping with our sensibilities and so forth. But here's the first soliloquy. And he would stride the stage right to the front, look out into the audience, not looking at them, but thinking his thoughts aloud, as it were. Oh, that this too sallied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Oh, that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it, fie. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That it should come to this, but 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2. So excellent a king that was to this, Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven, visit her face too roughly. Heaven and earth, must I remember? Why, she would hang on him as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on. And yet, within a month, let me not think on it. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little month, or ere those shoes were old, with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears. Why, she, even she, oh God, a beast that wants discourse of reason would have mourned longer. Married with my uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules. Within a month, ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her galled eyes, she married. O most wicked speed, to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. It is not, nor it cannot come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. So, personal grief, understandable in the situation. He's still mourning his father, and his mother, who was not only beloved of his father, but loved him as deeply and dearly, has switched her affections just like that. And it's as if it was as natural as night follows day. There's no problem with this. He finds this enormously difficult. And so we have great sympathy for the boy, Hamlet, at this stage. But note that he is so upset that he entertains suicide, except he knows that it's against God's law. It's a canon against self-slaughter. But that's how upset he is at the whole thing. Normal grief in this situation, I think. So that's how the play opens. Very rational, reasonable response to the death of a father. But we're not yet at the crisis point, which is about to come. Horatio enters, and Marcellus and Bernardo, the men who are outside the castle gate. Hail to your lordship. I am glad to see you well. Horatio, or I do forget myself. So this is a friend from school. The same, my lord, and your poor servant ever. Sir, my good friend, I'll charge that name with you. And what make you from Wittenberg, Horatio? Marcellus, my good lord, I am very glad to see you. And then to Bernardo, good evening, sir. But what, in faith, make you from Wittenberg? a truant disposition, good my lord. I would not hear your enemy say so, nor shall you do my ear that violence to make it truster of your own report against yourself. I know you are no truant. But what is your affair in Elsinore? We'll teach you to drink deep ere you depart. My lord, I came to see your father's funeral. I prithee, do not mock me, fellow student. I think it was to see my mother's wedding. Indeed, my lord, it followed hard upon. Thrift, thrift, Horatio, the funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. Would I had met my dearest foe in heaven, or ever I had seen that day, Horatio. My father, methinks I see my father. The hot food that was there at the funeral was the cold food that was served up at the wedding. They were so close together. Again, he's distressed at not only the state of affairs, but the speed of the change. Methinks I see my father. Where, my lord? Because of Horatio has just seen his father, so he's thinking, is the ghost behind? No. In my mind's eye, Horatio, I saw him once. I was a goodly king. I was a man. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his like again. My lord, I think I saw him yesternight. Saw who? My lord, the king your father. The king my father. Season your admiration for a while, with an attent ear, till I may deliver upon the witness of these gentlemen this marvel to you. For God's love, let me hear. 2 nights together had these gentlemen, Marcellus and Bernardo, on their watch. In the dead waste and middle of the night, being thus encountered, a figure like your father, armed at point exactly, cap a pie, appears before them, and with solemn march does slow and stately by them. Thrice he walked by their oppressed and fear-surprised eyes within his truncheon's length, while they, distilled almost to jelly with the act of fear, stand dumb and speak not to him. This to me in dreadful secrecy impart they did, and I with them the 3rd night kept the watch, whereas they had delivered, both in time, form of the thing, each word made true and good. The apparition comes. I knew your father. These hands are not more alike. But where was this, my lord, upon the platform where we watch? Did you speak to it? My lord, I did, but answer made it none. Yet once methought it lifted up its head and did address itself to motion like it would speak, but even then the morning cock crew aloud, and at the sound it shrunk and haste away and vanished from our sight. 'Tis very strange. As I do live, my honored lord, 'tis true, and we did think it writ down in our duty to let you know of it. Indeed, indeed, sirs, but this troubles me. Hold you the watch tonight? We do. Armed, say you? Armed, my lord, from top to toe, etc. Okay, so he's going to join them. Make long story short, let me come to Act 1, Scene 3. Now Hamlet has been acquainted with the appearance of his father and what will ensue therefrom. Act 1, Scene 3. We have Laertes and Ophelia, the two, and then Polonius, the father, will enter the scene a little bit later on. But we see something of the closeness of the siblings here. And the advice given to Ophelia. Because here's the problem. Ophelia appears to be enamored with the prince. And the prince is above her station. He's not going to marry her. He can't marry her. He doesn't get to marry who he wants to marry. He has to marry somebody of noble family from another country or something. His marriage will be arranged, and he will agree to it. That's part of being two persons. There's an individual there, and then there's the position. He will have to marry who it's decided he will marry. He might have some say in it, but it's not going to be you, because you are the daughter of one of the king's officials, but you will not marry him. He's trying to speak to his sister to acquaint her with reality so she doesn't break her heart. Also, he doesn't want her to be seduced by the prince, because that happens all the time as well, and the prince is going to he's going to be affectionate towards you, and that child is not going to be a lawful heir. It's going to be a bastard. So all of this is warning. Both father and son are going to be aware of this situation, just so we understand here. So Laertes, ready to go to France, remember, speaking to his sister, my necessaries are embarked. So he's already sent his baggage ahead. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit and convey his assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you. Do you doubt that? For Hamlet and the trifling of his favor hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the perfume and suppliance of a minute, no more. The violet, it's a desire. He lusts after you, but there's nothing more than that. You've caught his eye for a moment, but this will not last. That's what he says to her. No more but so. Think it no more. For nature, crescent, does not grow alone in thews and bulk, but as the temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his will. But you must fear his greatness weighed. His will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the safety and health of this whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then, if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he, in this particular act and place, may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, that is, listen to his songs of love, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep you in the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough, if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself escapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before their buttons be disclosed. And in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blasphemous are more imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. Ophelia's response shows that she's not unintelligent. I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But, good my brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst, like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and reeks not his own reed. So you want me to be chaste and, virtuous. You do the same. don't, listen, preacher, listen to your own sermon. Oh, fear me not. And now the father comes in. I stay too long, but here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. Yet here, Laertes, abroad, for shame. The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for. There, puts his hand on his head, my blessing with thee. And these few precepts in thy memory. Now, Polonius is a bit of a blowhard. He likes to declaim and give speeches full of wisdom, and he's a bit of a fool. It's not that he's wholly lacking in wisdom whatsoever, but there's a bit of, he goes on a little bit too much and sometimes misses the point. Okay, so yeah, just to give a revelation of his character a bit. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them unto thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new thatched, unfledged courage. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Take every man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulleth the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee. Now, this is all wise counsel. I mean, the last words there, to thine own self be true, is it's like a romantic model as much as anything. But it depends on what you mean by your own self. If your own self is following Christ, then you would say that this is good counsel. There's no mention of that, however. So it's rather vacuous in some ways. At any rate, Laertes leaves. Now Polonius speaks to his daughter. And Polonius, as ever the schemer, here's the problem for Polonius. Polonius is the advisor to the king. And everything that concerns the king and the state of Denmark, it's his duty to act in the interests of the king in Denmark. But his daughter is allied in some sense to Hamlet, who is the future prince. So he needs to act in Denmark's interest, not in his daughter's interest here. This is deeply problematic for him. He's split on this and conflicted. And he can be a good advisor and a bad father at the same time, or a bad advisor and a good father. But if depending on the state of the union, he's going to be in a more and more difficult position. Here he's in a particularly difficult position because of the state of affairs in Denmark. But I say that to open the advice here. But he begins with a rather suspicious, what is it, Ophelia, he hath said to you? So please you, something touching the Lord of Hamlet. Marry, well bethought, 'tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as so 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. What is between you? Give me up the truth. A little bit more intrusive than the brother, just giving general advice. What's the nature of your relations? Tell me everything. Overbearing, I would say, in this situation. You tell me everything here. So now he speaks with the authority of the advisor of the king, but not really like a good father, because it's like, I want to know all the details. He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me. Affection? Puh. You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them? I do not know, my lord, what I should think. Marry, I will teach you. Think yourself a baby that you have ta'en these tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or, not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, ringing it thus, you'll tender me a fool. My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion. Aye, fashion ye may call it. Go to. And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with almost all the holy vows of heaven. Aye, springs to catch woodcocks. A spring is a trap for birds, to catch a bird. I do know, when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise. as it is a making, you must not take for fire. From this time be something scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For young Hamlet believes so much in him that he is young, and with a larger teeter may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of that dye which their investment show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds, the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not in plain terms from this time forth have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words of talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you, come your ways. I shall obey, my lord. Okay. What's the difference between the advice of Laertes and the advice of the father? How would you characterize the character of the advice? Which would you rather hear from a relative? Would you rather hear Laertes' advice, the tone, the intent, or would you rather hear the father's? Whose honor is Polonius concerned with? Whose honor is Laertes concerned with? Laertes cares about his sister. Polonius cares about himself, pretty much. That's how I would characterize it. He's a very selfish man, and he wants her to basically rebuff Hamlet altogether. Laertes has said nothing of the sort. He said, keep your wits about you, be careful, he's not his own. Said all the same things Polonius has, but the difference is that he respects his sister's ability to navigate the situation. Polonius talks to her like she's a baby and shows no respect for her in the situation and orders her to do something which she then goes along with. And that also is going to create problems between Hamlet and Ophelia. We don't know the relation between them other than that he has tendered affections towards her in some way. How genuine those are is it in question. I think it's probably genuine on the basis of what comes out later in the play. The fact that he is not only able to act on his own in his own self-interest, but does have to concern himself with the affairs of the state, that's definitely true. But it's not the case, as Polonius presents it, that basically anything he says you can ignore as just noise, and he's just trying to get close to you and forget it altogether. Overreacts a little bit in the situation. Okay, so Act 1, Scene 4, and then Scene 5. So this is the interactions with the ghost, and as I say, this is the pivot point in the play, because after this, Hamlet acts irrationally. Act 1, Scene 4. Right where we began. Hamlet, Horatio, and Marcellus. Hour is struck, flourish of the tempests. Trumpets, ordnance shot off. Within, what does this mean, my lord? All of these noises. The king doth wake tonight and takes his rouse, keeps wassail and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge. So the king gets up, decides he's going to have another couple of drinks of vintage, throws them down, and then the trumpets and the cannon shoot to pledge his pledge. So he's a bit of a carouser. He's a bit of a playboy at night, right? Is it a custom? Aye, marry, is it? But to my mind, though I am native here, and to the manor born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance. This heavy-headed rebel east and west makes us traduced and taxed of other nations. They clip us drunkards, and with the swinish phrase soil our addition. And indeed it takes from our achievements, though performed at height, the pith and marrow of our attribute. So oft it chances in particular men, that for some vicious mole of nature in them, as in their birth, Therein they are not guilty, since nature cannot choose his origin, by their overgrowth of some complexion oft breaking down the pales and forts of reason, or by some habit that too much o'erleavens the form of plausive manners, that these men, carrying, I say, the stamp of one defect, being nature's livery or fortune's star, his virtues else, be they as pure as grace, as infinite as men may undergo, shall in the general censure take corruption from that particular fault. The dram of evil doth all the noble substance of a doubt to his own scandal. He's talking about the drunkenness with which the Danes are charged with being. And nothing else is spoken of. They drink too much, that bunch. However great they are, that's all they talk about. Now the ghost comes in. What do we get from the speech? Hamlet talking about his own nature in some sense, his own personal nature, which is a reflection of Denmark. For all of his virtues, we're going to talk about one fault. Now the ghost enters. Look, my lord, it comes. Angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a spirit of health, or goblin damned. Bring with thee airs from heaven, or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable. Thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet. King, father, royal Dane, oh, answer me. Let it not burst in ignorance, but tell why this thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements, why the sepulchre, wherein we saw thee quietly interned, hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean? That thou, dead corse, again in complete steel revisits us the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we, fools of nature, so horridly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do? And the ghost beckons. It beckons you go away with it, as if some impartment did desire to you alone. Look with it with what courteous action it waves you to a more removed ground, but do not go with it. No, by no means, said Horatio. It will not speak. Then I will follow it. Do not, my lord. Why, what should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do for that? To that, being a thing immortal as itself. It waves me forth again, I'll follow it. And then almost echoing the scene that we just saw in King Lear, what if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, or to the dreadful summit of the cliff that beetles o'er its base into the sea, and there assume some other horrible form which might deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness? Think of it. The very place puts toys of desperation without more motive into every brain that looks so many fathoms to the sea and hears it roar beneath. It waves me still. Go on, I'll follow you. So off he goes. Where wilt thou lead me? Speak, I'll go no further. Mark me. I will. My hour is almost come when I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. Alas, poor ghost, pity me not, but lend thy serious hearing to what I shall unfold. Speak, I am bound to hear. So art thou to revenge when thou shalt hear. What? I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house, I could a tale unfold whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood, make thy two eyes like stars start from their spheres, thy knotted and combined locks to part, and each particular hair to stand an end, like quills upon the fearful porcupine. But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. List, list, oh list, if thou didst ever thy dear father love, O God. Revenge his foul and most unnatural murder. Murder! Murder most foul. As in the best it is, but this most foul, strange, and unnatural. Haste me to know it, that I with wings as swift as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge. I find thee apt. And duller shouldst thou be than the fat weed that roots itself in ease on Lethe wharf, shouldst thou not stir in this. Now, Hamlet, hear. 'Tis given out that, sleeping in my orchard, a serpent stung me. So the whole ear of Denmark is, by a forged process of my death, rankly abused. But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown. Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle? I, that incestuous, that adulterate beast, with witchcraft of his wit, with traitorous gifts, O wicked wits and gifts, that have power to seduce, one to his shameful lust, the will of my most seeming virtuous queen. O Hamlet, what a falling off was there from me, whose love was of that dignity that it went hand in hand even with the vow I made to her in marriage, and to decline upon a wretch whose natural gifts were poor to those of mine. But virtue, as it never will be moved, though lewdness courted in a shape of heaven, so lust, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage. But soft, methinks, I scent the morning air, brief let me be. Sleeping within my orchard, my custom always of the afternoon, upon my secure hour, thy uncle stole, with juice of cursed Hebena in a vial, and in the porches of my ear did pour the leprous distilment. Whose effect holds such an enmity with blood of man that swift as quicksilver it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body, and with a sudden vigor it doth posset and curd like eager droppings into milk the thin and wholesome blood. So did it mine. And a most instant tetter barked about, most Lazar-like, with vile and loathsome crust all my smooth body. Thus was I, sleeping by a brother's hand of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched, cut off even in the blossoms of my sin, unhoused, disappointed, unannaled, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. O horrible, most horrible, if thou hast nature in thee, hear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But howsoever thou pursues this act, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven, and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge, to prick and sting her. Fare thee well at once. The glowworm shows the matin to be near, and gins to pale his ineffectual fire. Adieu, 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 remember me. O you host of heaven, O earth, what else? And shall I couple hell? O fie. Okay, so brief comment here. As I said, the account that he's just given is that his brother has murdered him, yes, but that he himself is in hell because he was not confessed before he passed down into the grave. So because of that, he is now in hell. He's not in heaven, as Hamlet would expect him to be. As a good Protestant, he's professed his faith in Christ, and Christ alone, his hope is found, all of that sort of thing. No, it's because he died without confessing his sins at the very end, and therefore his sins have sent him to hell. And Hamlet is now speaking to a demon of hell. So Hamlet is deeply troubled by all this, because not only is he hearing a terrible account that he hadn't heard before, but had intuited. He thought that that was the case. In his spirit, he knew. So when it's true, when it becomes verified, he believes it fully. Yet, the account that his father gives is a Catholic account. And Hamlet doesn't believe it in those terms. But his father is still speaking to him. He believes the events that have transpired. So what on earth does he do at this point? What does he do? And so his response, so his father has said, vengeance on my brother, and leave your mother alone, and let heaven take care of her soul. That doesn't sound like a soul in hell. He still cares for his mother, and you leave her alone and let her conscience be, provoke her and so forth. It's a funny statement to make. And so his response is, shall I couple hell? So I'm supposed to work with hell against my father, or my uncle rather? That's the question. Immediately. That's my alliance? Oh, fie! Hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee, I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee, yea, from the table of my memory I'll wipe all the trivial, fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past, that youth and observation copy there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven, O most pernicious woman, O villain, smiling damned villain. Seems most angry at his mother. Unless he's referring to Claudius in this. My tables, meet it is I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. I think it's Claudius myself, but there's a little ambiguity there. At least I am sure it may be so in Denmark, that you can smile and be a villain. He writes, so uncle, there you are, now to my word. It is adieu, adieu, remember me, I have sworn. And then noises from within. My Lord, Lord Hamlet, enter they, heaven secure, and be it, so be it. And there is a little back and forth. Can you keep a secret? It's Hamlet's question to them. You'll reveal it? Nope. You'll keep it secret. I, by heaven, my lord. Both of them. There's ne'er a villain dwelling in all Denmark, but he's an errant knave. What line is that one? There needs no ghost, my lord, come from the grave to tell us this. Why, right, you are in the right. And so, without more circumstance at all, I hold it fit that we shake hands and part. You, as your business and desire shall point you, for every man hath business and desire, such as it is. And for my own dear part, I will go pray. These are but wild and whirling words, my lord. I am sorry they offend you, heartily. Yes, faith, heartily. There's no offense, my lord. Yes, by St. Patrick, but there is, Horatio, and much offense too, touching this vision here. It is an honest ghost that let me tell you, for your desire to know what is between us, or mastered as you may. And now, good friends, as you are friends, scholars and soldiers, give me one poor request. What is it, my lord? We will never make known what you have seen tonight. My lord, we will not. Nay, but swear it. In faith, my lord, not I, nor I, my lord, in faith. Upon my sword. We have sworn, my lord, already. Indeed, upon my sword, indeed. Ghost cries under the stage. Swear. Ha, boy, Say'st thou so? Art thou there, true penny? Come on, you hear this fellow in the cellarage? Consent to swear. Propose the oath, my lord, never to speak of this that you have seen. Swear by my sword. Swear. Hic et ubique, here and everywhere. Then we'll shift our ground. Come hither, gentlemen. Lay your hands again upon my sword. Swear by my sword, never to break of this that you've heard. Beneath, swear by his sword, says the ghost. Well said, old mole. Canst work in the earth so fast? A worthy pioneer. How much remove, good friends? Oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange, and therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. But come, here as before, never, so help you mercy. How strange or odd some ere I bear myself, as I perchance hereafter I shall meet, to put an antic disposition on, that you at such times, seeing me, never shall, with arms encumbered thus, or this head shake, or by pronouncing of some doubtful phrase, as well, well, we know, or we could, and if we would, or if we list to speak, there be, and if they might, or such ambiguous giving out, to note that you know aught of me. This do swear, so grace and mercy at your most need help you. And then the ghost swear. And the Hamlet, rest, rest, perturbed spirit. So in this last little speech here, 165 and following, he declaims what I said there. First of all, there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in our philosophy. It says in this version, I believe in my version, it says your philosophy. Yeah, that's what I have. I don't know why it's our philosophy. I've always read it as your philosophy. So I don't know what version this is. It's online, so who knows? It might just be a copying mistake. It's your philosophy, but it would have been their philosophy as they've been taught it in university. But now the reality is here, and things are stranger in reality than they are as taught in the schools. And nonetheless, later on, he will put an antic disposition on, make him seem crazy, and I want you to swear that you know not of the reason for this. But he gives away here exactly what will transpire going forward, namely that he will act in a way that is irrational, and we will have difficulty as the audience discerning a man who is in control of the situation from one who's out of control. And that's a reflection, I think, of the sort of complexity of his character. But that's the end of Act 1, and I'll stop.